The one thing you can say when you look at the waiver wire for week 8 is that it's not hot at the wide receiver position. It has not been hot since the beginning of the year. There are some wide receivers to look at. We got some trends here that we can really sink our teeth into. However, we can easily say the wide receiver position at the waiver wire is kind of dank. It's not that great. There are not many players that we feel good about, but there are some wide receivers that we can grab. One of those is Josh Downs of the Indianapolis Colts, and he's been trending up over these last few weeks. We've been talking about him almost every week this season. We've already done one deep dive, maybe two of him this year, but he's still sitting on waivers in a lot of leagues, so we got to do another deep dive so you can get an understanding of what Josh Downs is about. But before we dig into this, you need to click that subscribe button. Tap it with your finger on your phone. Click it with your mouse. Do whatever you need to do to get the job done so you can stop missing out on these deep dives of these players, because we're doing this every day. Multiple players a day, multiple videos a day, covering the waiver wire. We're helping you set lineups, helping you win trades, and everything else. Let's dig in. Let's look at Josh Downs again. And the reason why we're looking at him right now, because going over the ESPN, he's rostered in just 34.6% of leagues. The wide receiver position right now is very bleak on waivers. There's guys being dropped, guys being picked up, so things are different from league to league. But Josh Downs is available in a lot of leagues, should have been rostered. He's a guy who should be rostered in a lot more leagues, pushing 50%. And we're going to go into the numbers and tell you why. But first off, back-to-back-to-back productive weeks in fantasy football. Over double-digit PPR fantasy performances. His first wide receiver 1 week of the season was in week 7, but 13 points in week 6, 15 points in week 5, down week in week 4, 13 in week 3. He's got a good run here. He should be on the radar for a lot of people right now. Big time. He does not need an explosive performance to do that because the work rate is rather high. Look at these targets. 6, 8, 6, 3, 12, 5, 7. He's getting workload. He's getting opportunity. And things are trending up for the rookie wide receiver from North Carolina. Going over his points per game from a different perspective here. 1 wide receiver 1 week on the season. That's week 7. 1 wide receiver 2 game. However, week 3, 5, 6, 7. You're not upset about the results. You're getting double-digit PPR fantasy production. And all this time, he's been a waiver wire get. Not like he's a top-tier draft pick. So getting that production is something you're okay with if you picked him up. Because he's looking good. He's looking like he's on the upside of things right now. And that might be his upside performance, but still 13 fantasy points with some down weeks. Something good that you get off the waiver wire. That is something you expect of a player that semi-hits off the waiver wire. That is something that you look forward to. If you said you picked up a wide receiver middle of the year, they gave you that production, you're going to feel all right about it. Because when you look at the waiver wire as a whole, zooming out, looking at the macro, there are not many good wide receivers out there that you feel good about, that can be consistent, and he's giving you some consistency here. Looking at the targets per game, he was averaging 6.7 a game. That is pretty solid. That's a good work rate right there. 6, 8, 6, 12, 7. That is what you want from a wide receiver off waivers. Consistent workload that you can project. You know you're getting a good matchup here. You can play with him in your lineup here. He's going to be up and down because he's a waiver wire player on a team that's up and down. But looking here, he's getting some opportunity, and you want wide receivers who are getting opportunity off waivers because you can't score without it. You can't do anything without it. And now looking at the air yards, this makes him volatile. This makes him the guy on waivers right now. This is why people are not jumping off the bit to get him these last few weeks, because we do see those inconsistencies here. Just they could not put that point to that. They could not figure that out. But the air yards are not up there to make him a top true wide receiver here for fantasy football. 72 air yards in week 3, 97 in week 7. Then we're in the 50s week 4 and 5, 39, 26, 20. He gets the short to intermediate targets. He's not targeted much downfield, and that really hampers his opportunities for upside, for him to get you 20-plus fantasy point weeks. We had one in week 7, but again, we need yak. We need deep targets. We got 97 air yards in week 7. If this becomes a trend, we start seeing 80, 90, 100 air yards a game, he's going to be a league winner down the stretch. If we're seeing 70, 50, some 30s on this chart, he's going to be a volatile player. Nonetheless, if you get the volatile player, he's still going to help you out because you can play the matchups with him. It's going to be some head scratchers, but he's seeing a decent target share, which means you can feel good about him in the right matchup. However, with this target share, if we're seeing what we're seeing in week 7 and he's starting to earn 80, 90, 70, 100 air yards a game off and on, and is oscillating between that, you're going to get yourself a league winner down the stretch because that's going to allow him to get some fantasy production, allow him to tap into that upside, and not just to be that short area slot wide receiver that he was trending at during the start of the season. And then going over the stats here, last week he saw 6 targets at 27.3% target share. On the season, we got a 20% target share. So rule of thumb, when you're looking at wide receivers off waivers, if they're getting a 20% target share or higher, just pick them up, play the matchups. Look at their matchups going forward, play the matchups with them, see what you can get out of them, because it's chance after that, but at least you know you're getting opportunities. Averaging 51.6 air yards per game on the season. If we get more games like week 7 against the Browns, that's going to increase. That 7.7 ADOT will increase, allow him to be more reliable, allow him to tap into that upside a little bit more for fantasy production. But as we look at the numbers here, on the fantasy production, it's not too bad. He's a guy to grab. He's looking okay. But the thing is, they could trend up to be better. And that's what we're looking at for Josh Downs. Is this a trend? We don't know. One sample is not a trend. It is not a trend, but it's something to pay attention to. And I'd rather pay attention to that on my bench or in my lineup than on somebody else's roster because he's getting a 20% target share. He's running an 81.1% route participation rate. 3 games in a row where he's been productive. He's a rookie. He only has 7 games experience at the NFL level. He's still new. He's still fresh. He's doing a lot of good things right now. He's earning more of a role. Things are trending up. Let's see if we can get more out of him. And with that 7.7 ADOT, really pairs well with Gardner Minshew, who loves to throw the football in that area. Allows him to get more targets, allows him to see more opportunity, allows him to get more volume, and work rates. Opportunities is key, not just for running backs who needs carries to be able to do something, but wide receivers too. They need targets. They need targets downfield. They need volume. And looking where Minshew likes to throw the football, that is where the Downs volume comes from. Minshew going to the short to intermediate, targeting Josh Downs. He goes deep a little bit, but this is also why we're seeing Michael Pittman in the media right now, wondering why he's not getting as many targets. It's just where the ball is flowing, short to intermediate part of the game. Josh Downs excels here. We saw that at college. We saw that in North Carolina. A tremendous slot receiver who can do a little bit more, plays bigger than his size, creates separation, fast enough to get the job done. We've covered that before, but again, we have a bigger sample of Minshew dropbacks. A lot of them are going to 10 yards or less. Just is. 10 yards or less, a little bit more than 10 yards, right around that Josh Downs area right now. 7.7 ADOT, the ball's right in that area. And now looking at the Colts schedule, it's up and down. We got some plus matchups. We got some down matchups. But again, that Browns game was a down matchup going into it. That's what Vegas said. And they're going to say that in some of these matchups here. Though he's getting a large target share, you may want to gamble with him off and on throughout the season because he is going to have some down weeks. He's not going to consistently pump out production every game. That is just natural. That is just how life works. But he is a player getting work rate. He is a player getting used, and he's going to have some games going forward where you're going to wish you had him in your lineup like you did last week. Now he's sitting on waivers. You ignored him all these weeks. Just pick him up. Have him rostered. Play around with him from week to week because some games he's going to hit. Some games he's not because the Colts are a little bit volatile. We all know that. These matchups are a little bit volatile. We all know that. But there is some games where he's going to hit. We got some bye weeks coming up. We still got like 20 teams left to go through their bye week. I think it's week 13. 6 more teams are on bye. And we're going to have to deal with this struggle off and on throughout the season. Colts are on bye week 11. But still, he could help you out in a pinch. He's seeing targets. He's seeing opportunity. He's a big part of this passing offense, and you need him because you need a wide receiver off waivers. One of the few wide receivers on waivers getting a consistent target share of around 20%, getting 6 to 7 targets a game, getting opportunities, trending up. A rookie wide receiver who's getting more volume each week, running a lot of routes, running a lot of snaps. A guy you want to look at. You don't need him because you rather stash running backs. I like stashing running backs off waivers. I draft heavy at wide receiver so I can attack the running back position throughout the year more, be more aggressive at it. But again, if you need a wide receiver, Josh Downs is probably your guy. Should have been your guy. Should have had him all along, as we've been talking about in these last few weeks. And I'm just astonished he's rostered at such a low rate at 34% on ESPN leagues that I had to do another video on this. Let me know in the comments below if you're after Josh Downs or if you already got him rostered. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Catch you on the next video.